Hello, my fellow aviators and my beloved mechanics. Welcome to a new series that I put together called The Enemy Within. Now, in this, there's a lot of enemies facing aviation these days, and I'm sad to report that most of our enemies come from within our own ranks. They are our fellow pilots, our fellow mechanics. Not to mention that those that are placed over aviation. Tall men in very nice suits, never been in the cockpit of a plane, never even been on the flight line, and yet they are in charge of aviation, and they are doing a great deal of harm. And I don't even think it's intentional most of the time, for I believe that the most people that are doing harm to aviation is but a small group of people, but they put themselves in places of power, places of influence, and harm us greatly. So with that being said, this first issue on Enemy Within is on the Aviation Safety Caucus. This is a group of congressmen and maybe pilots. I don't know, they're dressed up in captain's uniforms, but I don't know. So I would like to address what they're doing. This is being led under Congressman Nick Langworthy. Now, he's out of New York, and I looked up his background, and as I suspected, he's never been in a plane, he's never been in a maintenance hangar, and yet he's leading the charge to greatly harm aviation. What he's doing is putting forth a bill to restrict the Part 135 and the Part 380 operators. Now, these are just charter operations. Right now, he's making the bill to only apply to operators with 9 seats or more. But as we've seen in the past, that once something like this is put into motion, it slowly starts encroaching on others. And over time, within a couple of years, it will apply to all 135 operations and may even encroach into Part 91 operations. So with that being said, I would like to just show you your video of the captains in the Aviation Safety Caucus giving a talk. So here's them speaking out.
Carriers operate scheduled flights with ticketed passengers under Part 135 and Part 380 regulations, which do not have the same level of security screenings. That can mean the same type of aircraft operating out of the same airports could do so without the same security screening standards to which all other airline operations are held. That is absolutely unacceptable. Allowing Part 135 and Part 380 operators to take advantage of less strict security protocols introduces risk into our aviation system. Passengers deserve the same high level of aviation security, regardless of their departure point and destination, and ALPA is grateful for Representative Langworthy and his colleagues for their leadership on this issue. By addressing the security threats created by the current loophole, we close a dangerous precedent that could spark a race to the bottom and continue to undermine aviation security. Carriers should compete on routes and services, but we must never allow them to compete based on safety or less strict security procedures. Americans, regardless of whether they live in a large metropolitan area like here in DC or a rural community, deserve the same level of safety and security. The Safer Skies Act is one important step toward what our industry needs at this critical moment. Representative Langworthy, thank you for your leadership on the Aviation Safety Caucus at this important time in our history.
You fat man. Speak up.
Now, I'd like to point out to the fat man, hey, fat man, speak up. Where are all these terrorists? Where is this sudden demand that we need extra security for our Part 135 operators? Terrorists can't even afford a coach ticket on our airlines, and yet now we're being told that they are able to spend tens of thousands of dollars for private charters, hop on planes, and cause damage. Is this true? Where are the facts? We've already had over a decade of the Transportation Security Administration doing security screening at our major airlines. What do we have to show for it? It costs over $11.8 billion per year for the TSA to do this. What have we gotten for our money? But has anybody asked this? Because I googled Google and asked them, how many terrorists have the TSA stopped? How many have they prevented? Oh yeah, they won't tell us. But we kind of all know that if they did catch a terrorist, boy, it would be plastered all over the national news, and they would be talking about what heroes they are. But I think in reality, they are just waging a war on 50 cents water bottles that once we get across the security line, now we have to pay $5 for that same bottle of water. I think that's what we've gotten for $11.8 billion a year for TSA airport security screening. I would like to go back in time, a time when America was at its greatest and saved the world from tyranny. This was at the beginning of World War II, and this was with President Franklin D. Roosevelt. He got on national TV when America was scared, when we were operating out of fear. And Franklin D. Roosevelt said to the American people,
fellow Americans, expect that on my only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed effort to convert retreat into advance.
The only thing to fear is fear itself. What words of wisdom that those turned out to be. I pray that America can go back to such wisdom and not operate out of fear anymore, out of some boogeymen out there trying to kill us. Because to be honest with you, I don't see them. I just do not see them at the airport at all. The airports are perhaps our most safest areas that we have in the country, our safe spaces. There are aircraft mechanics, trained pilots, watching over those airplanes and taking care of you, the American public. And I have never met a pilot that would not lay down his life for his passengers and for the safety of others. That's what we have at the airports, and that's not even talking about the security guards. Now, I hope that we can return to that same attitude. Now let's talk about Part 135 operations. As you watched with the video with the captains there, talking at the Aviation Safety Caucus, I can guarantee you they're not corporate or Part 135 pilots. They don't know anything about the operations, and they're just talking like everything should just be run like an airline, a Part 121. I have over 3 decades of being a corporate pilot. Maybe not, 135 for just a little bit. Mostly just doing the same thing as our 135 counterparts. Now with 135, there is no hubs. There are no big parking lots. Why we get into these small, out-of-the-way airports, which Part 135 specializes in, that's where they're going. They're not going to the major airports, maybe very few times indeed. Their specialty is going out of these out-of-the-way areas, getting people where they need to go, where airlines just don't service anymore. We land there, we're lucky to have a refueler. We're lucky to have a pilot lounge. We're even more lucky if they have a crew car so we can drive into town and get lunch, but usually we don't. That's what kind of airports that we operate. Now with Congressman Langworthy and the other congressmen and women proposing this, most obvious question is, How are you going to pay for this? We're already at $11.8 billion just to cover the major airports with the airlines. Now, with the passage of this bill, you're going to have to staff all these airports. And at these airports, maybe getting 1 to 2 Part 135 flights a month. What, are we going to have a TSA guy standing around there just waiting for those 1 to 2, 3 flights a month? Probably that's what they're thinking. Who's going to pay for it? The American people have had it up to here with paying for government employees and government benefits that don't accomplish anything. That's all this is going to do. And if you try to switch the costs onto the 135 operators, they're out of business overnight. Just overnight. They can't afford that. Now, what would we lose if this bill passes and it collapses Part 135 operations, which I'm sure it will do? Because if they can't comply with the regs of getting a TSA security clearance or screening for their passengers, well, the flight's just canceled. And across the nation, I think that's what would happen. I bet you these pilots at the Aviation Safety Caucus know this, and that this is just a deliberate plan to collapse 135 operations. But that's just my opinion. Now, what happens if Part 135 collapses? Because probably some of you watching this video are going, who cares? I'm not a rich guy spending $10,000 to $50,000 to just do a private flight and go to Aspen for the weekend. Sure, most of us aren't. However, with you new pilots, you only have two paths to make it to a flying job. The first is becoming a CFI, a certified flight instructor. Now, as you've seen on the blogs and you've seen the employment going around the country now, there just isn't enough jobs out there for all of you CFIs, especially to get enough of you up to the 1,500 hours to make it to the airlines. It just isn't enough. This will collapse the airlines if we rely on just flight instruction to make our new pilots. So the other option is you become a Part 135, a charter pilot, or like me, a Part 91 guy. Now the Part 91 jobs are even harder to find, and they don't advertise, so it's mostly the 135 guys that are hiring you guys. What's going to happen if they collapse? Now you have no way to go forward. You're graduating from flight school with $100,000, $200,000 in debt. You have maybe 300 flight hours, if that. Who's going to hire you if this law goes forward and they collapse 135? The answer is no one. So now, we like to think that in America we've gotten rid of slavery. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case at all. I think that we've changed out the iron chains and handcuffs that we used to have on slaves in America, and we replaced it with student loan payments. I think that's the new change that we're enslaving our young people in. Because if you graduate from flight school, you cannot bankrupt your student loan. You can't get any more student loans to become a doctor, a lawyer, or keep going back to school. It's done. You're done. So now you're stuck working probably 2 dead-end jobs to nowhere just to make the student loan repayments, which go on until you're in your 40s or 50s. You don't have enough money for even a new car, not even enough for a studio apartment, no money to even get started. I call that slavery. And I pray that none of this happens to you guys. It's that brutal. So sticking up for your 135 operators is actually critical for you new pilots. Now, we really need to circle the wagons because we're under attack. We are really under attack. Now, another thing that's going to happen if we collapse a 135 industry is that's going to lead to the immediate destruction of our aircraft manufacturers. America leads the world with aircraft manufacturing now. Our King Airs, our Cessna Citations, our Gulfstreams, premium aircraft across the world, everywhere in the world. Well, if they pass this restriction on Part 135, guess what? The rest of the world follows whatever America does in aviation. So these same rules will be placed upon the 135 operators throughout the world. It will collapse them as well. Just where are they going to get the screening and the money to do so? They aren't. So therefore, just by not meeting that one reg, it will shut down more than half the flights, which will in turn bankrupt all of those operators. So now with them out of business, where is Textron Beechcraft going to sell their aircraft? Where are they going to sell a King Air or a Citation with no Part 135 operators? The answer is their market will dry up overnight. And now in a time when the president is trying to bring back manufacturing into the United States, now these congressmen and women and the Aviation Safety Council are trying to, through the back door, shut down aircraft manufacturing. This will be brutal. I can't imagine the tens of thousands of jobs that will be just taken away from America, and the end of our aviation manufacturing companies. Because once they're gone, they're not coming back. It's too hard, too many roadblocks, and there'll be no market for the products that they want to produce. That's how brutal this is. They are just starting this law off with just saying it applies to Part 135 operators with more than 9 seats. I've seen this playbook before. Because remember after 9/11, I had my flight school and I was running along and 9/11 happened. At the time, they told us that these were done by just kids in flight school that couldn't even land a Cessna 172, but yet were able to fly a jet into the Twin Towers and into the Pentagon. What a line of, oh, never mind, that's another video, another topic. But anyways, hey, they said, let's just do background investigations on our foreign students. Make sure they're not terrorists. Hey, it'd take 1 to 2 weeks to do such a thing. That makes sense. It seemed prudent. So they started doing the background investigations. Then, shortly after that, then all those flight instructors had to register and be put on a list and have an account with TSA just to submit our students for the background investigation. Then they went ahead and, with no congressman, no oversight, not even a number to call or an email to talk to, all of a sudden somebody there at the TSA decided that, oh, if you're not a Part 141 flight school, you're not allowed to do foreign students. We'll just deny the application. And I had a special agent from the TSA call me up and say, yeah, you're not a Part 141, so I'm just denying this kid's application. I think he was from Japan, or something like that, Brazil or Japan, a hotbed of terrorists for sure. Oh, brother. So now, without any reason at all of a sudden these unknown bureaucrats, faceless, nameless, can't even get a hold of them, accountable to nobody, all of a sudden increased all these requirements, and they shut down most all Part 61 flight schools. Because as a Part 61 flight school, just 1 or 2 foreign students would keep your flight school in business. They would fly every day, sometimes more than once. They were here, they were spending tens of thousands of dollars to get their licenses and go home. They supported the local restaurants, the local businesses, the local apartment buildings, the local hotels. With my little flight school of 4 to 6 foreign students, I was spending $35,000 a month just in fuel. I hired 2 mechanics. I had 4 or 5 flight instructors working. I figured that just my one small flight school was putting in $500,000 into the community. After TSA came in and took all these steps that weren't discussed with us, that weren't approved by anybody except a bureaucrat sitting in some cubicle. I saw my flight school get run out of business. I saw the other flight schools disappear as well because of this. Then I saw the restaurants closing. I saw the individual businesses in the strip malls closing down. I saw a fuel island that was not getting $35,000 a month in sales just from my one flight school. This is truly devastating to not only aviation, but to our communities, and for no benefit at all. None. That we don't open up new cans of imaginary problems. We have so many problems in aviation to deal with right now. We have pressing issues. In my last article on FAA check rides, snake eyes you lose, we're seeing our student pilots being charged thousands of dollars for check rides. We're seeing the student pilots being failed on check rides under false pretenses and then denied employment down the road because they failed the check ride. We're seeing the collapse of aviation. We're seeing airplanes fall out of the skies due to the improper maintenance and oversight of the FAA. Oversight by an FAA that is incompetent, mean-spirited, and lawless. Completely lawless. And as I push forward with future articles and videos, you will see that. It's not an idle claim. Give an award to those captains. Now those captains, I have to admit, I'm a little bit jealous. Now remember, in some of the videos or some of the responses I've been getting, especially on Reddit, a lot of people are accusing me of just being jealous, of just wanting to be an airline guy. You know, as a corporate captain, 30 years experience, may I just tell you that when you tell an experienced corporate pilot that he just always wanted to be an airline guy, it's kind of like going up to somebody and saying, hey, you have creative thought. You're able to think. Let's get you a lobotomy. Yeah, it's kind of like that. So no, I wish I could have been an airline pilot, but God chose my path and I followed it. And I'm glad how everything worked out. So with that, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, the captains with the scrambled eggs on their covers there. Now you know, 14 years in the military, you know, it's just reserve, so not active duty, but just reserve. I think scrambled eggs are for base commanders. What the heck is Fat Man here? We have Fat Man here with scrambled eggs on his hat. I don't think Fat Man could find his way out of, let me just move on. So anyways, I don't get the scrambled eggs, but I'm just jealous. And I am the jealous type. So now I'd like to award these captains with scrambled eggs on their hat the 2025 Mutter Ducker Award. Yes, this is the first award for 2025, but boy, did they earn it. Thank you for your work and dedication to helping to collapse American aviation. And, hey, Fat Man, speak up. I'd be more than welcoming to have you on my channel to discuss why you think I'm wrong. And remember, I would love to be wrong. Any criticism, please shout out on my YouTube channel. Send me an email. Here's my email. I would love to be wrong. What I have seen over the 4 years of doing this, 4 years of sticking up for pilots and aviation, I have never seen anybody offer a counter to one of my points or say that I'm wrong. They just don't. They do personal attacks. Like, hey, my uniform's shiny. Hey, thanks. Hey, you're fat, you're ugly, you're old. I don't know. It's always a personal attack. I welcome any criticism and anything that I say that is wrong, I will more than happily admit to and redact. So please, my detractors, my haters, my trolls, please discuss the issues, not personal attacks. Please, doesn't benefit anyone. So now, I hope they enjoy that Mutter Ducker of the Year award, which they've earned. And with that being said, if you'd like to support this effort, because what I'm going to be doing next is sending this article and this video to the Aviation Safety Caucus, to Congressman Nick Langworthy, and to the other congressmen and congresswomen that are supporting this bill, and either receiving a letter that they're not supporting the bill anymore, or to be interviewed and to find out why they are supporting such a bill. I can be wrong. I would love to be wrong, and I'd love to hear their point of view. With that being said, if you'd like to support these efforts, hey, the patches that you see on my YouTube channel and in the articles, they're all free. I'll just send them out to you. Just shoot me an email, and I'll just ask for a donation. I'll put in an envelope for you, throw in a couple dollars for them. They are rather expensive to make, but we deserve our own patches. Also, if you can put together a couple people, I would love to come out to your airport and do flight reviews, maybe do some flight training. Then speak to your group, small or big, I don't care, about the problems that we're having in aviation, and more importantly, the steps that we're taking to improve aviation and to protect our young pilots and our mechanics. Then, also, if you'd like to just send a donation, I imagine that each of these congressmen I'll go to, also the FAA administrator, I'm going to bring it up with him since the FAA is also putting in more regulations. Surprise, surprise. But I'm also going to be taking the issue up with him. And then also with the Aviation Subcommittee. So there's a lot of people that I'll be contacting. There's a lot of flights that I'll hop on with Spirit, Frontier, Southwest, cheapest. I'll probably end up getting delayed there and then coming back on Greyhound. And I love Greyhound. I absolutely love Greyhound. And it's an honor to defend and speak up for you young kids that just don't have a voice. Not only do you have no voice, you're not even being told the truth. So with that being said, let's not operate out of fear anymore. Let's not open up any more cans of problems. We've got too many of them now. I would like to just wish you God bless, keep flying speed, and peace. Oh, wait a second. I think I hear my girlfriend in the next room. I wonder what she could be saying.
I'm fucking bored, and my partner's in the next room. Whatever will I do? I've got it. I'll reach for a brand new can of Cause Problem. The same great formula you've always loved, but now in a can.